Time. I'm trying to get this
All
pulled
right,
up.
everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're going to be talking about radon, the silent risk. When you go to work with a buyer, hopefully there are three inspections that you order from the start, your standard home inspection, some sort of pest inspection, and then hopefully radon is that third one that is always presented to the client because it is truly so important. It is one of those things that you don't see, you don't smell, but it is a big concern. And so today we're going to talk about exactly why it's a concern. We're going to talk about what to look out for, why it's especially an issue in our area, and then if it does come up, what conversations to be having with your clients, and then what the solutions are, including potential costs and how to work through all of that. So today we are joined by two special guests. First and foremost, we have Josh with Open Window Home Inspections. You guys should be quite familiar with by now. Open Window is a preferred vendor with us. They help us navigate a ton of inspection stuff. He does a ton of trainings with us, but also is a resource to us and our clients regularly. So if you run into situations out in the field, give him a call. And then we also are joined by Michael or Tommy Everett. Um, he is with AAA Environmental Solutions, and he's going to be talking about radon with us. So welcome to you both, and thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm not gonna sit here and fluff anything up. So let's just get into it. This one is actually going to be really short. Um, Radon is not a subject that you can talk about for a very long time unless you're an expert like Mr. Tommy here. He could go on for days. He's got so many certifications, but we'll get to him in just a minute. We're going to dive right into this and we'll talk about some radon. So most agents have heard about it. They've even seen it in a report or maybe even had to deal with it once or twice. It's not new. But if we're being honest, it's not something most people really dig into until it shows up in a deal. The truth is radon is invisible, odorless, and it's present across our entire state. About 1 in 5 homes that get tested show elevated levels in North Carolina, and that includes plenty right here in the Triangle. North Carolina, in certain areas, especially around the Triangle and the foothills, we see higher readings because of the soil composition. And I'm not here to make it dramatic or scary, and this is not going to be a health seminar either. We're here to look at it the same way we would look at anything else that can slow down or complicate a transaction. Something that, if we understand early, we can control and communicate clearly. That's what this conversation is about. Taking something that's usually a headache and turning it into one less surprise for your clients. And before we get too deep into the topic, I want to introduce Mr. Tommy Everett. And he's someone that knows this world better than just about anyone in the state. He is the owner of AAA Environmental, used to be AAA Exterminating, and he's not just another radon contractor. Tommy is a certified NRPP, NRSB, and holds multiple certifications like RMS, RMT, SGMCI, and many more, which basically means if it has to do with radon, he's qualified to teach it, test it, and fix it. So we work closely with Tommy, and we do it behind the scenes a lot of the times. So we want to make sure that every radon test, every radon mitigation plan that passes through our system is done to the highest standards. You'll hear me reference him a few times today, and not because you need to call him directly, but because he's the expert we lean on to make sure your clients get accurate results and reliable solutions. So, Tommy, thank you for being here today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. My signal's a little bit messed up. I'm on a Starlink satellite on the top of my truck, so I'll do the best I can.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all. All right. So let's break it down into plain language. Radon is an odorless. Am I sharing my screen?
I'll see you.
My apologies. You should have yelled at me, Kate.
I didn't know if you had one planned.
There we go. Can you see the radon with the blue on the right side?
Yes, you're good to go.
Perfect. All right. So radon is an odorless, colorless gas that forms naturally when uranium in the soil and rocks break down. It's not something anyone adds to a home. It's just part of the ground we build on. As the gas moves upwards, it can seep into homes through cracks in the foundation, gaps in the crawl space, or small openings around plumbing and slab joints. Once it's inside, it gets trapped and it builds up over time. Radon isn't dangerous outdoors because it disperses quickly. The problem starts when it gets trapped inside the home and begins to build up. As it breaks down, it releases tiny radioactive particles that can get caught in your lungs when you breathe. Over time, that radiation damages the lung tissue, which increases the risk for lung cancer. The issue isn't that radon exists. The problem is when it builds up indoors. It becomes a health risk, and it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the US, right behind smoking. Here in North Carolina, radon has been found in all 100 counties. Some areas have higher concentration than others, but it's not just a mountain or an old home issue. We find it in new builds, basement, slab homes across the entire triangle. The only way to know if a home has elevated levels is to test. There's no smell, no color, no warning issues, no signs at all. You either test or you guess. Now, Tommy, just to give everyone a real world picture, how often do you actually see elevated radon levels around the triangle?
Right now, we're probably seeing it's national average. We're probably one in 14, 1 in 15. Now, the funny thing is, though, those numbers change dramatically as seasons change. One kind of concern we have with radon in the area is radon spikes in the wintertime. The reason is the outside is cold, the inside is you're keeping warm, heat rises, your house becomes more of a vacuum cleaner in the wintertime. So the concern is a lot of the real estate transactions take place in the spring and summer during the real estate market. And so if people have around a 2 or 2.5, they're not too worried. But if you have a 2 in the summertime, you may have something much higher in the wintertime. Also, things like the construction, as houses get tighter, as they make more energy efficient. Energy efficient is wonderful, but it can contribute to higher radon because you're not allowing fresh air in, fresh air out, as the older draftier homes used to do. Another issue we're seeing is encapsulated crawl spaces, which is what really got us heavily into the industry. We've done encapsulated crawl spaces for years, and sometimes you need that to help the crawl space improve air quality. But encapsulated crawl spaces can turn a crawl space house into a house that holds radon. And so I would always recommend, if you guys have a new encapsulation done, have Josh and his team go by and test that a few days after they install that. That way you know what's going on, because it can drastically affect the way your house breathes. But I would say it's definitely on the uptick. Also, in areas where new construction is starting, as they're disturbing the soil, those existing homes near there may start getting it in their well water. They may start getting pathways into their houses. So we've seen a big increase in radon the more we test.
Ah, that's great info. So when a home does test high, what's the first thing you tell the homeowner or the agent who's worried that it's going to kill their deal?
If first things first, I do recommend a retest immediately. There can be anomalies. Usually what we like to do if we have something high, we like to go in with a duplicate test, 2 machines side by side. That way you're getting a really good picture of is this an anomaly or is this something going on? You also got to understand the chart you're looking at with these reports. Sometimes you'll see changes in barometric pressure, which can drastically affect, you can get spikes. Also, if it rains. When it rains, the water blocks off all the natural paths that radon will come out of the ground. But underneath your house will be dry, and it'll focus it. That's how come you get higher radon during the rain. Also, the barometric pressure can drag it in. So understand the 48-hour real estate transaction test is a very short-term test. We have a lot of tests that we go long-term, and you'll see spikes. You'll see spikes go up to 5, 6, and then the rest of the year it'll be low. And you might test right in the middle of one of those spikes. So first retest, then have someone really, and if you know you're high, the most important thing is to have a mitigator who is certified and actually knows what they're doing. Very often in our area, there's no regulation. So you might get a mitigator to just put a hole in the side of a slab, stick a pipe out there, pray to God it comes under 4, and then walk away. But you need to do pressure field extension testing. You need to have some sort of long-term indicators that this machine is going to continue to effectively control radon.
Absolutely. That's great info. Thank you. All right, so here's where this starts to matter for everybody in real estate. Radon isn't just a health issue, it's a deal issue. It shows up in thousands of closings every year, and how that conversation is handled can make or break a client's confidence. When a buyer hears the word radon, they don't think about what it actually means. They think about problem, or even worse, unsafe home. That's when emotions start driving the deal instead of facts. And we all know that buying a home has its ups and downs of emotions. Our job isn't to make it sound smaller or bigger than it is, it's to explain it clearly, early, and confident. If you can do that, radon becomes one of those things that's handled instead of one of those things that blows up in the 11th hour. So let's talk about how this actually works in a real estate transaction. The good news is radon is completely manageable when it's handled by the right people in the right order. And Tommy, feel free to jump in if I'm not right with this order here. So it starts with understanding the risk. Radon comes from the ground and it's common through North Carolina. So testing isn't about guessing where it might be. It's about confirming where it's already there, if it's already there. Then we measure accurately. Certified testing allows EPA standards for how long the test runs and where it's placed. That accuracy matters because bad data leads to bad decisions. And Tommy, for the agents in the room who may not know, how long does a standard test take? And what does that process look like for a homeowner?
Well, a standard real estate transaction test needs to be at least 48 hours. And again, that's a very short-term test in the course of radon. But that's what the EPA suggests we do. We at least need to do the 48 hours. And if you're having a home inspection going on at the time and there's a lot of doors and windows opened up, or if it's you might want to do a 12-hour delay so the room can come back to equilibrium. If you're doing new construction, I highly recommend have that over the weekend because people are less likely to come in and out of the house.
Fantastic, thank you. If a test comes back high, the next step is to fix the problem. Mitigation system use fans and venting to remove the gas from below the foundation and release it safely to the outside. It's not invasive, it's not overly expensive, and it works. After the install, results are always verified. A post-test confirms that the system lowered the levels and is performing correctly. And finally, we trust the right experts. That's where partners like Tommy come in behind the scenes. He makes sure every system that goes into the home through Open Window meets or exceeds the national standards. The process is simple when it's done right. It's when people skip the steps that problems start. And here's where it really connects to your day-to-day. Radon isn't a technical problem, it's a communication problem. The way we talk about it determines how a client reacts. First, catch issues before they kill the deal. Don't have to be a radon expert. You don't have to be a radon expert. Just recommend a test early. A quick test up front avoids those last-minute surprises that slow down closing. Second, talk about it like a pro. Use calm, simple language that helps buyers and sellers understand what's happening without panic. Use something like, it's common in the triangle area and it's completely fixable. That kind of tone keeps everyone grounded. Third, know it happens here too. The triangle isn't low risk. We've seen elevated results in all kinds of homes. Again, new construction, older homes, homes with slabs, homes with crawl spaces, homes with basements. It doesn't matter. Awareness keeps you prepared and credible when it comes up. And finally, call in the right people. Open Window handles the testing, coordination, and follow through so you don't have to scramble for solutions. Your clients stay confident and your deals keep moving. So here's the truth. There is 0% added home value. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that an installation for a radon mitigation system suddenly makes your home worth more. And if it did, I think all of us would have these on our homes. So that number will always be zero. And it's unfortunate. It should add value, I think, but it does in a different manner. So here, we're looking at above EPA action level. That number actually shows that about 6% of homes nationwide test above the EPA's action level for radon. And that's not, and like Tommy said, it's 1 of every 10 to 15, and maybe even 1 out of 5 to 10 during the winter. And this isn't just in mountain towns or older homes, it's happening everywhere. Tommy, based on the testing, oh, no, I've already asked that question. Sorry about that. And so here's the real takeaway. 100% of homes with clear radon reports sell smoother. When a buyer sees tested, mitigated, or verified, their confidence goes way up. And Tommy, when a home does need mitigation, what's the typical cost range or turnaround time agents should expect so they can set the right expectations with clients?
Most of the time, it's going to be in the range between 15 and 2,000, 1,500 and 2,000 most of the time. If it's a crawl space, we have to ensure that we've got a good membrane. So sometimes it involves us having to go in there, redoing the vapor barrier and attaching the vapor barrier to the wall. So those are a little bit more expensive sometimes. Also, if it's a basement, and there's a clay up underneath it, it can be a little bit more. One issue, the way this all works is we have to kind of get in there. We've got to do these mitigations quick because there's real estate transactions. If we go into a house and it's got rock up underneath there, it's got gravel up underneath there, we can put the suction point anywhere. We can do anything we want, and it's nice and easy. Sometimes though, we'll get into a house and it'll be nothing but wet clay underneath that slab. In those cases, we gotta drill out probably 15 or 20 gallons of clay through a 5-inch hole and remove it there to create this area for the air to go. And one of the big issues is North Carolina is not regular.
Uh-oh. I think we lost him. Oh no.
Our real target though is to get under 2. So far, we have not failed at any mitigations to be able to get it under 2, because that's what you really need to do to make your clients feel better. Because you buy this brand new house and the mitigation comes back at 3.5, and the guy tells you, "Listen, we're good to go, we're all good," and that's not going to fly. Most people want those numbers as low as possible. So that early work to really know what you're getting into is going to help make that more successful.
Absolutely. We lost you a little bit, but that's all right. We can move on. And if anybody's got any questions, we can answer those at the end. So I appreciate that. And if you're representing a seller, maybe it would be worth encouraging them to do a radon test before listing. It could turn a potential surprise into a selling point. And if you're representing the buyer, make radon testing part of the due diligence conversation early. It protects their investment, gives you leverage for negotiation, and shows you're looking out for their long-term safety. 3 simple things you can do to make a big difference. Start by talking clearly. Don't overcomplicate it or use technical terms. Let the experts do that, because we do that so well. Just explain what radon is, why it matters, and what testing involves. A calm, confident conversation early on sets the tone for the entire transaction. Second, test early. Whether you're representing the buyer or the seller, scheduling that test through Open Window keeps everything consistent, documented, and professionally managed. We handle the process from start to finish, and mitigation, and if mitigation is needed, we can coordinate it directly with certified pros like Tommy and get it done right. So you don't have to chase anyone down. So Tommy, when we send clients your way for mitigation, what's your typical turnaround time once you've got that specs from our team? How long does it take you to get that done?
Most of the time for us, it's a few days. Now, a lot of times you'll have guys that go out and put them up immediately. I like to go and I like to do testing. I like to know what we're getting into. I like to take a little bit of time designing the system because there's a lot of things to consider. Where you put that fan is important. It can create noise. You don't want to put it up next to someone's bedroom. Also, the way the air flows. So there's a lot of things you really got to kind of dig into to understand. I also have some mitigation tools like trackers. So I like going in the house. I like putting trackers out so I can pinpoint any hot spots. Sometimes you get in there and you go, okay, you got high rate on here. I'm going to put a system here, and you have a hard time getting the numbers down. Sometimes the reason for that is you are not mitigating an area that it's really coming from, and your system might be shorting out because it's not getting air over there. And so I've seen time and time again, we'll have a nice mitigation system, everything looks perfect, and then I've even seen the numbers go up because it's pulling it from another area if it's not actually depressurizing it. So there's a lot that goes in. But usually within a few days, if it's a rush, we can certainly get it done. But we do have a certain protocol we do for testing to be ensured that we're going to be successful.
That's great info. And I would hate to see after putting a mitigation system in for numbers to rise, because that would just be frustrating.
It's rare, but it happens. I've seen it a couple times.
Oh no. And finally, partner smart. You don't have to be the expert. You just need the right team in your corner. That's why Open Window oversees the testing and partners with certified mitigation experts like Tommy and his company behind the scenes. It keeps the process smooth, it protects your clients, and keeps you out of the weeds. Handled the right way, Radon becomes one more thing you can say is taken care of, and you don't have to worry about it at all. So talk clearly, test early, partner smart. That's how you keep your deals moving forward and your clients happy. So after everything we've talked about, here's the point. Radon isn't the big unknown most people think it is. It's predictable, it's testable, and it's fixable. When agents understand that, it stops being a stress point in the deal and it becomes one more piece of information you can guide your clients through. What matters most isn't the gas in the ground, it's how we handle the conversation above. And if you want some practical or something practical to use today, I'm gonna get this link and I'm gonna drop it into the chat right here at the end. It's a short, simple, and built for you all. You can pull it up when a client asks. You can print it out and use it whenever you need to. It's got testing, mitigation, what to do if a report shows up with elevated levels. It's not a pitch piece. It's a quick reference to help you keep the deal moving and the conversation clear. I'll get that link to you here in just a minute. All right, so let's open it up for conversations. If it's something on the technical side, Tommy can jump in for that piece, but for testing, scheduling, or anything related to inspections, I can handle that. Or you can reach out to Open Window and we can have a conversation after this.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. We have a few questions in the chat that I'm going to get to. Ginny asked, is there any, and this is probably more for Tommy, is there any at-home radon measurement device you recommend? Let's say you have a radon inspection in the spring, but are worried about it in the winter. Is there anything over the counter you can purchase? And obviously, I know there's something to be said about bringing in professionals, but I also can understand as a homeowner, if you want to be kind of hyper vigilant, you might not want to be paying like $100 or $150 every year, every few seasons. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that and if you have a product you recommend.
Yes, I actually just got back from the Radon Symposium in Texas a few weeks ago. And Bill Broadhead, who's a legendary radon guy, he did a significant testing on all of the available consumer models. The one that really nicely was the Radon Eye Pro. No, not the Radon Eye Pro, use the Radon Eye. The company is called EcoSense, and the product is Radon Eye. They got a product too, like Cubes. They all use the same sensor. The sensor is extremely accurate, extremely reliable. You can get one of those units yourself for maybe $150 or so online. I'll get the $150 one though, the Radon Eye. Get that one, and that is a phenomenal home monitor. Now, of course, this is not an official test, and you're not calibrating it. But as far as home use, that's the best one you can get.
Awesome. That's great info. Thank you so much. Josh just put that cheat sheet in the chat, so be sure to download that. I'll be sure to include it when the recording goes out. Maria Luisa asked, how is the mitigation in a townhome?
In a townhome, those can be tricky. If it's a middle townhome, you got to wonder where are we going to put this pipe, and sometimes they're really high. So you got to take this pipe 30 feet off the ground. My favorite way of doing it when I can is do an interior system, and this is always the best way to do radon. If you can keep it in the interior, sometimes you can go up through a garage. If you can get communication from the garage to the rest of the slab, sometimes you can find stacked closets inside the house, and it's just you can put a pipe. You can even build a chase later on if you want to, if you don't want to see it. But the best thing to do is kind of go right up through the middle of the house, go out the roof, put a roof boot on. You'll never know it's there. Sometimes you cannot do that. So very often you have to do the exterior lateral suction pit where they drill on the side of the house. It's just you got to really be careful and plan your routing because you do want to try to get the exhaust over the roof line if you can. However, you don't have to. A lot of people don't know this. You can, as long as you're 20 feet off the ground, you're going off of a 45 angle and you have proper clearance from any windows or any kind of intake like soffits or anything. You don't have to go above the roof, but you should if you possibly can. So they are trickier. End units are better because you got more places you can put it. But in the middle, you are very limited.
Great. And that kind of snowballs into the question that I was thinking as you guys were talking is how do you decide on placement? I know you said it'll kind of depend on hotspots and evaluating the home. I'm sure that there are certain homeowners that would be like, well, I'd love for it to be in this closet so it's completely out of the way. I've also heard though that closets can not be ideal because they're enclosed and therefore they aren't really like pulling circulation from the rest of the home. I'm curious what your insight is if a homeowner comes to you and they want it somewhere, like how do you decide what's a yes and what's a no, or is it just truly home specific?
Sometimes it's home specific. Also, the tough thing about radon is every now and then every now and then you might see a radon system that's in a really crazy spot, like right in front of the house or something. Probably what happened is that's the only one. Sometimes you are limited, but I like going inside the closet and going through the slab from the top instead of from the side. Because whenever you see those systems that are coming in from the side of a slab, what's going on is they're drilling through a thickened edge slab. That's your home's footer. And so you're drilling through that footer. You could possibly cause some problems with that. So we like going inside. It's okay wherever it's at, as long as the slab, what's underneath the slab, is all one piece. Like for example, most slabs around here are mono slabs, so they're one pour on top of plastic or on top of gravel. So if you got communication, in other words, I can do a suction point over here, and I can test another hole in the other house, and I'm pulling air from one to the other. I can put it anywhere that I can do that. So that's what you got to decide. So most of the time you're depressurizing underneath the slab. It's got nothing to do with air inside the house at all. You're pressurizing underneath that slab. So, if you can get it under there, any kind of spot, most of the time though, it comes down to what it looks like. And more importantly, I've learned lately, it's noise. Some people are hypersensitive to noise. These fans are quiet, but every now and then, about 1 out of 30 clients can hear a pin drop from down the street. And you have better place that fan carefully, or it will keep that person up and drive them crazy.
That's so valid. Yeah, that would be not ideal if you get something in your home and then all of a sudden you can't sleep, but also totally valid thought about making sure you maintain the integrity of the slab. Your foundation is incredibly important. Josh, a quick note, it looks like that sheet is in Google Docs and it's making people request access. So if you could
Ah,
just like download it, maybe email it to me, I can get that out to people. Another question, can you please repeat the cost of mitigation? I think he said about 1,500 to 2,000. Is that correct?
I would say that's the average. Sometimes it can be more complicated. If the crawl space doesn't have a good plastic up underneath there, you have to redo the plastic. So think about what a vapor barrier costs to add that to it. I would say on average are 15 to the builders have basically driven it to 1,500. They probably should cost 2,000 because it's hard work. But the builders basically say, listen, we'll give you 1,500 bucks. You can take it or leave it. And that's kind of keeps the price. And it's okay because we can usually do it for that most of the time.
Gotcha. I was curious, as you guys were talking, I was curious if you ever run into situations where workplaces have radon testing done. It doesn't seem like that's a conversation that would come up regularly, and granted, most people work from home these days, but if someone is spending a lot of time in their workplace, I'm curious, is that testing that you get called out to do regularly? Is that something that people should be thinking about?
yeah, I
Josh,
mean,
yeah.
it not a lot of people think about radon until typically a real estate transaction. And that's one of the things that we see all the time is just, oh, I've been living here for 10 years and I didn't realize that I had, over the EPA average. And it's just like, well, it's just not a conversation that people have. So there's ton of information about radon, it's just not pushed out enough on social media or anything like that. So that's kind of why we're doing things like this, and try to get that information pushed out as much as possible.
Yeah, Stacy put schools in the chat. I guess you just have to be a
Yep.
squeaky wheel about it and be like, hey, this is something I want, or
Yeah.
maybe you just order it, let them know. I don't know. Um, you had mentioned in the conversation about hotspots, and I totally understand what you're talking about of if it's in a certain area, it could pull only from certain areas. I'm curious what causes a hotspot to begin with? Is it having to do with like the mineral deposits under the home, or is there anything specific that people should look out for that would cause a hotspot in their home?
Yeah, sometimes that's exactly what it is. That the way your ground makeup underneath the home. It can also be the way your house breathes. It's very hard to measure just how your pressure works in your house as your air conditioning system comes on. These different systems, opening windows, cutting on your bathroom fan will affect the pressure equilibrium in your home very often. But the main thing is probably radon is basically think of it as a heavy, lazy gas that just kind of hangs out. It can go through walls and go through anything, so it's easily manipulated by pressure. So in the ground, it's going to go through any of the easiest way it can travel. So like if you've got wells are a big one. Let's say we know we got radon on water sometimes, but sometimes it's a much bigger problem if you have a well. And let's say where the pipes are coming into your house, there's sometimes pipes will settle, and so there's a pathway. So sometimes radon can get extraordinarily high in the house because it's coming from the well being pushed up by the water. And so areas like anytime you have a path that's easy deep in the ground, that's where it's at. So sump pump systems that are put in, drainage systems, foundation drains, those can all be paths.
Interesting. And that leads us perfectly into one of the other questions someone asked is, should people retest over time? Because, I mean, we don't know, right? Like we think we're doing these things as a service to our home, and in so many ways we are, and they can also be a pathway. So they were asking about testing over time. And then she also asked, should tenants test for radon or ask their landlord about testing? Is there tenant rights regarding radon levels?
The tenant rights, that I don't know. I don't know about that one. That may fall underneath the lease agreement. I'm not quite sure there. I know with inspections, they're allowed to do inspections when it comes to testing and environmental things like that. I don't know how far that falls outside of the tenant's rights. Personally, if you're worried about it as a tenant, you should just go and get it done, and apologize later if you have to. That's just me though, so that's not good advice. But um, I don't see that being an issue in the long run. So if the landlord's not going to do it, then yes, I would definitely recommend going at least getting a self test and getting it done, because there are different types of tests that you can do to see, you know, an idea of what the level is. And then maybe think about getting an actual test if you can prove to your landlord, like, hey, there is, some evidence of radon in where I'm living. That makes sense.
It does. And then circling back to the frequency question, how often should people get radon testing done? Whether or not they've had it previously and seen it as a spike and just want to monitor, but like, what would you recommend with seasons and changes and just being kind of a responsible homeowner for either of you?
Tommy, what's your take on that one?
You should probably test every 2 years. That's what the EPA recommends. But I would also go a little bit further, and I would say if you had your test done in the spring and it was anywhere above two, especially if it was over two, have it retested again during the colder parts of the month. Whoever did the test, call them back, say, listen, let's do another test around December, January, because that'll tell you the real story. I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people forget, though, and this is probably the best tip I can give everybody. If your house has a radon mitigation system, and I'm actually very heavily advocating our industry to do annual inspections on these. In the termite business, we do annual inspections to make sure we got this stuff under control. These radon mitigation systems should be looked at once a year. They should be serviced. They should be make sure their indicators are proper. Sometimes these things will sit there; they're not running properly. They might break, and you have no idea it broke. So I would definitely recommend if you have a system, go ahead and have it tested at least every year, every 2 years, and have it looked at once a year.
That makes sense. All things to think about, and definitely something to consider when you're looking for radon companies. I'm sure you would want to kind of inquire what their availability is for follow-up, and definitely kind of similar to roofers, right? You don't want a fly-by-night company that then they're not available to come out. And obviously you could have other companies check, but still all great things to consider. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
I do actually. Tommy, is North Carolina looking at licensing for radon or having some type of certification in the near future?
Yes, and that's one reason I have so many certifications now, because I got kind of this North Carolina Health Board is looking into it now. There is organizations. Actually, a law has been passed already that radon is going to be regulated in North Carolina. Now, of course, it takes 5 or 10 years for them to actually put this stuff in place. Actually passed the be.
Uh,
So I would recommend anybody go through those programs if you can.
We got one more question in the chat before we hop off. How often are people requesting water be tested for radon? Like you mentioned about the wells, and how do you mitigate if it's in the well?
I've never had anybody request for radon being tested in the well. Um, that's actually a great question. And it's just like a water test. You take the sample and then you send it in. And there's plenty of um, water facilities that you can send those into. If you need that info, I can send that out, or you can give us a call and we can do it for you. Um, those test kits are not super expensive. It's not like Gen X or anything like that. Tommy, have you done any tests for radon and water? I think he's frozen. Yeah, he's there. It is. Did you there, Tommy?
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the middle of the street with my satellite going and breaking up a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
water mitigation is complicated. We're actually getting into that right now. I got a cousin that's a master plumber, and we're getting into that right now. But there's systems you put in very much like filtration systems, specifically designed for radon. So sometimes that's needed. I can tell you, Nightdale, that area there, they released a statement a while back about high radon in the well water around there. So usually you'll kind of know the areas. You can probably contact the North Carolina Radon Board. There's a North Carolina Association for Radon now. You can contact them. They can give you kind of the areas that are having trouble, but definitely anywhere in the northeast part of Raleigh, Nightdale, Zebulon, those areas, they've had significantly high water radon levels in water. So it would be worth a start. And not a lot of people are testing it. And also, the main reason people are not testing the water as much is because there's not a lot of scientific data showing that the radon in the water is necessarily dangerous for you. They are researching this now, though, for different types of cancer, like stomach cancer, things like this. But the way it gets released in your house is when you take a hot shower. When you take a hot shower, it releases the radon in the air, and those areas will spike in radon. So keep your fan on all the time if you got a shower running. That's probably the number one thing.
Wow, that's such great insight. That makes sense, right? It's the gas that causes lung cancer. And so, yeah, awesome. Any other questions, you guys? Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you to both Josh and Tommy for your time and knowledge. I can say with certainty, I learned a lot of new things and I have quite a bit of experience in ordering these for clients. So all great stuff to consider. If we have any questions, we'll be sure to reach out to you guys. Josh, just send me an email with that PDF. We'll get that out to people. I'll get the recording out. Until then, you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I opened up that PDF so everybody should be able to get it. I'll still send it to you.
Cool. Thanks,
All
y'all.
right.
Bye.
Thank you. Y'all take care.